All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I think this is one of the first session that I'm doing this year. And before that, like some introduction. So those of you who don't know me, I'm Deepak. I work for Customer Insight and Analytics team. I'm in my current role for almost now 10 and a half years and working in mostly in artificial intelligence, deep learning domain for almost 14 years now. I'm based out of Bangalore, so all of you who are in Bangalore can reach out to me anytime. And those who are outside also can reach out to me anytime via Teams, because I think the pandemic has leveled the field for everyone. Nobody is going to office these days. All right, and this session is actually a part of Technology Council and Innovative Studio collaboration. So we will be doing more of such session, which will be more of a technical in nature. So I thought like, let's get started with something very simple, something which is like very important for all of us, right? Important why? Last entire year, you guys have spent a lot of time in doing some kind of learning or some kind of online learning, let me say, right? In entire like let's say 7 to 8 months or maybe 9 to 10 months, you have been through a lot of session, video lectures, audio lectures, so on and so forth, podcast and all. Now you must have learned something from it, right? So my idea of today's session is before we start the season of learning again this year, let's see and let's take a break and let's try to understand what is learning and how we can learn to learn, right? So that's what this session is all about. It's totally fun session, right? I have kept the technicalities to minimum. And the idea is to encourage discussion that I will ask you. So whenever I say, please share your thoughts, unmute yourself, then you can please come in. Just keep it a little bit short, maybe not more than 1 or 2 lines so that we can hear out more and more people. And that will be like a food of thought for us. Now, if you like this session towards the end of the session, maybe just 5 minutes before, I'll share a feedback link. If you fill it up, it will encourage us doing more session of this kind. Otherwise, we will do something else what we like. All right, so the idea is to say learning is the path of intelligence, right? So we believe in so many things, right? So we say that, okay, somebody is born intelligent, somebody they work their way out to top by working hard or whatnot. So many other things are there. But my idea is like you can always learn. It doesn't matter what stage of life you are, what age of life you are, where you are. So whether you are beginning your career or you are mid-level executive or anybody can learn. And I think anybody should learn. So that's what the theme is. And let's get started here. So what we will learn today, we will focus only on 3 simple things. Why learning is important, how we can learn effectively, and what stops us from learning. So these are the 3 things that we'll be focusing on today. So in run up to this session, what I have done is I have actually read 3 to 4 books and I have conducted a couple of interviews also. So I'll share my experience with them and you also keep your experiences ready, right? So I will ask you something and then you have to tell me in 1 or 2 lines what was your experience or what do you think about it, right? So moving on, so this slide is important one in the sense you have to choose one of the option and remember that option, and we will come to that at the last after the feedback time, right? So what we are saying here is first option is your intelligence is something fundamental about you that can't be changed much. You can choose this option if you believe in the statement. Second is you can learn new things, but you can't really change how intelligent you are. OK, no matter how much intelligence you have, you can always change it quite a bit. Last one, but not the least, is you can always substantially change how intelligent you are. Right? So what do you have to do? You have to choose one of the option, read them carefully again, and choose like what comes immediately to your mind, what you believe in, what is, or you can say maybe you agree with all 4, but choose one which you agree more, right? Or agree most. So that's what you have to choose. I'll give some 10-15 more seconds. OK, so keep your answer handy and we'll come back to it and we'll try to elaborate on this thought process. So next is like why learning is important. So this is the first key agenda item that we have for today. So tell me like what you think about this particular image, right? So when I say learning is like flowing river, a perfect river goes on flowing, it's never frozen, right? So my idea of saying here is, if you don't learn, so you are like a frozen river, so nothing happens there. It rarely actually supports any kind of life, or it is, I won't say it is very beautiful also. But if you look at the flowing river, right? Flowing river actually enriches everyone. Wherever it passes through, it actually generates flora and fauna, it supports life, and it actually makes some sound also, and you can say it's a music also, and it is something that you love to see. So life is also like that. So if you stop learning, it is kind of being dead or stagnant. I won't use a very strong word dead, but I will say your life is kind of stagnant. It is not helping anyone, it is not helping you, there is no joy, so you are not moving. So you have seen a river flowing. When it flows, it comes in contact with so many things. So for example, it will come in contact with soil, with trees, with plants, with stones, and it moves its ways around it, right? So it will interact it and then keep on moving. So that's why learning for me is very important. If you don't agree with these philosophical thoughts, that's fine. So I have few thoughts jotted down for you, where I say what is the importance of learning for professionals. Now on this slide, I would like to take a pause and I will ask you to share your thoughts in just one liner so that we can hear out more people. So please unmute yourself and share your thoughts. In the meanwhile, you're picking up your thoughts. I'll just read down some of the things that I feel for professionals. Now, what happens is, when you started your professional career, you did something. Before that, you learned something. So you acquired certain skills in college or universities. And then what you did during the interview, you sold your skills. So basically, you acted as a salesperson. You sold your skills and said that, okay, I know these things. These are useful to you, and I will add value to you, right? Now, if you see just 5 years or 10 years ago, the skill set that was required is entirely different. So things have changed. Now, if you are not learning, if you are not changing, very soon you will become irrelevant, or we will say that you will not add enough value for the company to stay relevant or stay focused, right? So it is very important to acquire new skills and knowledge than anybody else, right? When we say anybody else, if you are like a person who believes in cutthroat competition, so if you want to stay ahead, still learning is required. Right? And as a professional, we use a lot of technical gadgets and all the security updates. The moment it is out, we are there to upgrade our devices. But why not ourselves, right? So learning is like upgrading your device, which is brain, and we'll talk about it in a moment. So anybody wants to share something why learning is important for professionals, or maybe why learning is not important? Anyone? You have to unmute yourself. Okay, so let's
Hi.
move on before
Hi,
you.
Hi,
Hey.
Deepak. Prasad here.
Yeah, go on, please.
Yeah, I personally feel learning is important because one thought which always comes in my mind is never stop learning because life never stops teaching you. So that is something which I strongly believe in, and I also believe in something which is adapt to change, right? So you need to adapt to whatever new things are coming in your way, and that comes only with learning.
Awesome. Anyone else?
Hi Deepak, it's Anirban here.
Hey.
Yeah, as I feel learning never ceases. So definitely learning is a very important role in our daily life, and I believe that with this learning we can achieve whatever the plans we have with work related or any other things, and it will really help us to move a lot with our promotions and next level, whatever it may be. So definitely learning is more important for us.
Great. Anyone else? Last one.
Hi, this is Muhammad Afshan.
Hey,
I feel like learning is very important for our existence, like how our basic necessity like food, shelter is important. The same way learning is important to change our career, to change in like in personal life. So I think learning is very important to
awesome.
upgrade yourself.
Great. So let's take a step forward. Since you all believe, and most of you believe that learning is important, I will give you some more reasons to learn, right? Learning also boosts your mental health, and mental health, you can say it can actually help in improving your physical health also. and why you need it, right? So for example, if you learn new skill, right, it gives you sense of accomplishment, right? It gives you a sense of pride and you feel happy. So that's how your mental health is actually improving. And if you go technically, right, so if you go in technical details, what happens when you learn something, you are actually activating the muscles in your brain, right? Some of the gray cells, neurons, whatnot, you are doing something and they are activating, right? They are firing up. Now, once they are firing up, you are more likely to stay happy, right? So it's a good feeling there, right? So you're challenging, you're doing something. So your life is not boring now. So and research shows that if people who learn new skill are less likely to develop dementia, right? So you are less likely to forget things which you don't want to forget, right? So that's why it gives me one more reason to keep learning. Now, coming to next one, where we say how to learn effectively. So we all know the importance of the learning, but we always struggle to learn. So if it was so important and if everybody knows it, and if it had been so easy, then everybody would be learning something. But that's not the case. We have seen people struggling with change. So learning is nothing but bringing change in yourself. Now we have seen people struggling with change, any kind of change, whether it's a technology upgrade, whether it's something to do with their habits or something as simple as like changing the way you dress or the way you eat or things like that, right? So that's why we have to learn how to learn effectively. But before we get into this topic, let's understand who is the master of learning. Right? So we'll say the brain controls everything in our body. And if you think that Intel or Apple or AMD or Qualcomm is making a best processor these days, think again, because your brain is the best processor, or I will say it is the supreme computing and storage machine. Your brain just weighs 3 pounds, that is almost 1.3 kilograms, and it has 86 billion interlinked neurons, right? So there are 86 billion connection between some small things that we call neurons, right? So neurons are some things, assume it is something in the brain. Now what happens? By stimulating the neurons in brain, you are firing more action. So what you're saying that one connection sends signal to another connection, or one neuron sending signal to another signal. So if you keep doing that, what happens? Your brain is activated. So it remains in that phase and it can do things much better, right? So it is something the research has supported that if you use your brain more, it is like a muscle, you will grow strong, right? And little image I tried to draw is you see the small circles there, then you see some of the lines connecting them. So it is like if you keep traversing same path, so if you keep connecting two neurons via same path, it will get strong. So that's why we say we have a strong memory of something, because we have remembered it so many times. So for example, if you go on a vacation and you keep talking about it to someone, more likely you can remember any time, right? So if even after 5 years somebody asks you about that, you will remember it, right? So this is how actually brain works. Now, why I'm talking about all this is to help you on an understanding. When you start learning, you will feel some hindrances, you will feel some resistance. So why those resistance, why that kind of resistance is coming, and how actually your brain is trying to adapt to it, or how you can actually stimulate your brain to basically overcome it, right? So that's where we are coming with these some specific details. Moving on further, we say how to make brain strong, right? So for your muscles of body, what you do, you exercise. Right? For example, this picture, if you see of Arnold exercising, what he's doing, he's trying to build muscles of maybe let's say biceps, right? Maybe chest or biceps or muscle he's trying to make more strong or look better. So what he does, can he do it in one day? He will just lift the weight and do like 1 or 2 sets of weightlifting. Can he develop that muscle? Maybe no, or definitely no. So what he does this day in, day out, like 30 times he will do, then repeat the set for 30 more times, and day in, day out, every day he will do the same thing to achieve that kind of muscle, right? So exactly same phenomena applies to our brain. So if you want to learn something, all you need to do is practice, to make a ritual out of your schedule and learn that thing, right? And we will talk about it in more detail. So what you need to do with your brain is very simple. You have to exercise mental exercises, learn something new, or read a book. Now, Reading a book is a very important thing that I feel. It is something like you learn from experience, right? And that is a very strong learning. But you have a limited lifetime to experience so many things. So what do? You read a book because a book is an experience of someone else. And their experience, they have structured and summarized in few pages, let's say 200 odd pages or 100 pages, right? So what do you do by reading that book? You are actually going through the experience of someone, or that person possibly have spoken to many people, and those experiences are summarized and that are readily available to you for learning. Right, that's why reading is very important. So I mean, if in a very layman terms you have to say, reading is like if you're driving a car or a bike, you have to turn your steering to move in a particular direction. Then you can turn back and move in another direction. So book is like that. You read book on different topics. So your brain is actually, or your mind is actually moving and experiencing that thing, and then you can come back always or move in different direction. Right. So moving on further, we can say just before that. Okay, move on. Sorry. A simple learning technique I'm presenting to you today. It's a very simple yet very effective, and I will focus on step one little more. That's why it is all in capital. So we say that study hard what interests you the most. That is very important, right? You should generate an interest, or it should be of your interest to learn, right? You have to study hard. If it is not of interest to you, or it is something like new that you are going to learn or you want to learn, explore the benefits that it will bring to you. If you are convinced with the benefits it will bring you, then your interest will be automatically there. Then what it says, in the most undisciplined, right? Undisciplined is a very important word here, right? It does not mean that you lose all the discipline in your life, right? So undisciplined here means you need not to confine the particular method of reading or writing or learning, right? So it's not that you have to pick up a book and read from end to end. No, you can pick up a book, read few pages. If you like it, continue, otherwise drop it. Pick up another book on that subject, or read some article, or read some blog, or talk to people. So that's what I mean by undisciplined. So most of the time, whenever I pick up a book to read, I rarely finish it from end to end, right? So I will pick up a few pages, and sometimes when you are reading, it is so interesting, you continue. Sometimes it is not so interesting, it's okay. Leave it for the first time, move on to other chapters or other topics over there, or move on to another book altogether, maybe some article or talk to people. So that's what I mean by undisciplined. Then we say irreverent and original manner possible. So it is something like when you are reading, you are understanding, and you are unlike any other person. So my way of understanding or learning from a book will be altogether different from your way of understanding or learning, right? So be who you are and try to learn in the way that suits you, right? That makes you learn better or effective manner or in effective manner. Once you have done the first round, and this is like an iterative process, I mean, I should have drawn a circle around it. It's an iterative process. So once you have done that, then first round, then you go and explain it to someone who is not aware of that topic or unfamiliar with it, right? So for example, you pick up a technology topic and explain it to non-technical person, or pick up something like economics and explain it to, let's say, an engineer, right, who will never understand economics, right? So that way you will understand the gaps in your learning, right? So you will see that, okay, I'm not able to explain something properly. There is something that I don't know. So you go back and read it again. So you have to review and simplify, go back to step 1, 2, 3, 4, and keep doing it. The assessment, which I call it as a self-assessment in machine learning, we say that, okay, what is the test of your knowledge? What is the test of your model? So I will say, if you cannot explain something in simple terms, you don't understand it very well, right? So that is like a self-assessment you keep and keep on repeating these steps. Okay. So before we move on, I would pause and I will ask you if you have any questions we can take up now, maybe 2, 3 questions we can take up. Keep it short and simple. Ask a question. We will come to your opinions later. You have to unmute yourself and ask me any questions. All right, so in the meanwhile you are formulating your question, I'll move on and I will take another pause, so keep your questions handy for that time. So before you started learning, what you did, you made a framework, right? Now you want to understand how your brain works or how your brain actually learns new thing, or let me keep it very simple and say that how your brain actually react to certain ways. So this is a study done by Daniel Kahneman, who got Nobel Prize for this, and I have his book handy. You can actually read it. It is Learning, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. You can read this book. It's a very good book and talks about the way we react, why we react, how we react, and can we change it, right? So he says that there are two ways brain forms thought. One is fast, another is slow. So something like very intuitive, instantly. The moment I will say hello, you will say hello. I will say good morning, maybe you will say good morning or good evening, whatever the case is. So these are very fast, automatic kind of reaction. So for example, you will see someone and you will make some opinion about it, right? You will see an image and make some opinion about it. So that is nothing but fast way of thinking it. So for example, the moment I say complete the phrase bread and, most likely you are going to say butter, right? Because that's what is inbuilt in your muscle memory or consciousness or whatever you say it, right? So that is like a fast way of taking action or reaction to certain instance or event. System 2, however, is little bit slow. It is more logical, calculating, and conscious, right? So if you are doing some complex processing, then you go a little bit slow. For example, if I say 2 plus 2, you will immediately say 4 because you have been through it like thousands of times. But if I say 17 multiplied by, let's say, 19, right? You may have done once or twice, so the connection between those neurons are not yet very strong. So you will do it methodically, right? So you will use some system and solve it. Now, should we say one is better, one is worse, or should we say both coexist, or should we say we should actually try to become one and abandon other? Possibly no, right? So we don't know the correct answer. So what I will say is both systems have their own merit. In certain situations, you need system 1, certain situations you need system 2. So for example, if you're working on a project in your job, then you need system 2. The idea of actually giving you these two systems is so that you understand. So you do not, let's say, do a project planning or let's say execution of a particular professional project in system 1 manner. You should not be a little fast or emotional or stereotypic about it, right? Go for system 2. Since you're aware of this thing, so what you can do, what you cannot do, right? How your brain actually works. So I'm still waiting for any question. If you want, you can stop me anytime. Now to gain further understanding, right? So now we are getting into the how to do it, how to learn effectively. So this methodology which I'm going to talk is about deep work or deep learning. So what we do typically, so there are two types of learning or two ways of working. One is deep, one is shallow. Shallow is like you keep hopping from one thought to another and never go deeply in any one of them, right? The second is you stop, you take an idea and work deeply on it. So you understand the nitty-gritty of it. You try to explore in the most best possible way as you know, and you try to explore so many dimensions of it and then try to come to a particular conclusion. So that is how we call it deep work. If you have to take a very simple analogy, I would say think of a letter T, like T in English alphabet, think of a letter like T. So the depth of that vertical bar is actually called as deep learning, and the width, if you see, it is shallow learning, right? So you need both in what scenarios? So for example, if you are a subject matter expert, then deep learning is important for you. You need to know your subject in depth. You should know all possible things that are available to know about that subject. While if you are a senior management person, let's say CXO, CEO, or on that level, then you have to be shallow because you cannot go deep in one particular topic because there are so many things that needs your attention. So their shallow working works much better. So it doesn't mean that you should not go deep. You should go deep, but depends like what kind of task you will be doing. And we will come to those things. So in which scenario, which method to choose. So why work deep? So working deep is very important in the sense it allows you to learn something very effectively, right? You give enough time, you explore various dimensions, you are likely to grasp the topic or subject in a much better fashion, right? Now, next question could be how to work deep. So I will show you 4 methods and I will talk a little bit in detail. So these 4 methods are like this. And this is a bit, you forget about the name monastic, bimodal, and all those things. I will explain how it works. Now, wherever you see blue bar, which is like the row 1, monastic 1, it means that you cut down all shallow works, cut down all distractions, go in isolation, and work deeply on your topic of interest or your subject of interest, right? So this kind of work is important if you want to do something which is like, so take it like this. So if that is the only way of living, right? So if you have to produce a book, or if you have to write a book or produce a movie, right? So your entire success is dependent on that. So in that case, you should go for it, right? So go for the complete isolation and all those things, and we'll see the pros and cons and all. The next one is like bimodal, wherein we say that we take blocks of deep work followed by shallow works, because in our day-to-day work we cannot actually ignore all the shallow works like responding to emails, monitoring someone else's work, or suggesting some ideas and participating in meetings and all we can do, but we can keep our chunks of uninterrupted, dedicated, focused time slot to work deeply on a particular subject. Then third is rhythmic, which is on a daily basis. So if you cannot even go for weeks, so basically you cannot cut off yourself for a week or two to work on something. So you say that, okay, every day I will spend some time. So maybe morning 5 to 7. 5 to 7 sounds very awkward. I can never get up at 5. So let's say 7 to 9. Now 7 to 9, you will dedicate it, but you will make it a ritual. You will make it as a habit. That 7 to 9, no matter what, I will focus on my work uninterruptedly. Right? So there should be no distraction altogether, no phone calls, no WhatsApp messages, and all those things. Last one, which is for pro, I don't think you should even try it right now. It is like during the day also, whenever you get time, you go and work. Right? So suppose you're talking to your friend, and just after that you took 2 hours and worked on your stuff and then came back and start doing something else. So this is a bit difficult. We'll in the next slide we will see what are the pros and cons of these. So as I said, for our purposes, I will say most of us, I would suggest method 3 is the best, right? Unless you say that, okay, I will take a sabbatical leave for 1 year, then you can go for method 1 and you're trying to write a book or create some piece of art or research on something so that you can publish research or you can develop a product or something like that. Then you should go for method 1. Method 2, method 3, right? So why I'm inclined towards method 3, and as I'm explaining, please think about it and try to put up your questions if you have, or your thoughts. If it is an opinion, please keep it limited to 1 or 2 lines. Now in method 2, you put like 1 week of isolation, right? So you will say 1 week I won't talk to anyone, I won't be online and all those things, and I will focus only on my work. Now, method 1 and 2 generally works best for artists, or at least for people who are teaching in colleges, where they can actually have the liberty to cut off from everyone for a week or months or so on. Right? For us, it's just not possible. So that's where method 3 is consistent and uninterrupted time blocks each day is possibly the best approach for all of us. Okay, any questions so far? We are all almost halfway. Any questions? Is anyone there?
Are there any other methods?
Yes.
Okay. Any?
Are there any other methods other than these 4?
Okay, there could be, right? So this particular thing is coming from a book, Deep Work by New Calport. He explored these 4 methods. So there could be any, or I will say that you can in fact create your own method, right? Now, and why and how you can create a method is why, because you understood the importance of deep working. So you need some focus to work on something so that you can create some great work. How to do it, it will largely depend on you. So for example, if you feel that you can take like 2 weeks off and focus on particular work, then method 2 is for you. Or you say like 2 weeks I cannot take off, but one day I can take off and then I can come back to work. So maybe method 2 and 3, you will try to combine it, right? So it will largely depend on how you mix and match and on what type of problem, right? So that's how you can do it. Anything else? Any other question? Yeah, so before you wonder, like this is the book that I've been using for exploring these things, Deep Work by New Calport. It's a very good book, Cal Newport, sorry. Okay, moving on, I will say putting it in action, right? So all of you have seen this, all of you have experienced this, but somehow we are not able to replicate it. We know that if we want to become effective and efficient, it's not something that will happen overnight. You have to put in a lot of efforts and consistent effort, right? So it's a lot of time what happens, we want to learn something, we went into a group meeting or somewhere, we heard about some topic and thought like it is very interesting because the person who was explaining was very good. And that person said that, okay, this is the best thing to happen in the world and it is going to be the future and so on and so forth. You came back to your desk and you started exploring about the topic, spent like 2-3 hours, and then of course on one of your internet browser, and then slowly the addiction kicks in and you go on to some of the social media site, maybe Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, anything. And then what happens? Your enthusiasm fizzles out, right? You maybe in a day you will forget about all it. And then maybe next day you will say it was the most ridiculous thought and I should not be even exploring more, right? So this particular slide actually focuses on this problem. It says that you have to decide what you want to work on, right? It doesn't have to be like very broad goals, right? So you need not to decide now that I want to be, let's say, artist, I want to be writer, I want to be a speaker, I want to be, let's say, even CEO of the company, or I want to be something else, right? You need not to think that big. What I'm suggesting is take a very small thing, right? So let's say you want to learn a language. Right? If you want to learn a language, you can start anytime. So, but you have to be convinced why you want to learn a language. Either it is adding some monetary benefit to you, or it is you are actually cultivating a hobby, right? Or you are just doing it for fun or something else, right? So maybe you are doing it to teach your kids or your friends or something like that. Or maybe you are just preparing for a particular conference or seminar where you want to speak few sentences in a particular language. So what you can do, once you have decided the topic, all you need to do is choose a deep work philosophy or method that we discussed before, so that you can choose. Then very importantly, you have to schedule your deep work blocks. So you will say that every morning 5 to 7 or every evening 7 to 8, 6 to 7, afternoon, whatever time works best for you, you have to do it, right? You will say that this time nothing else, no matter what, I will work on it. Third is you also have to decide how and where you will work. So it may sound a little bit awkward. Why can't I work from my, let's say, swing or from bedroom or from study room, anywhere, right? I would say that fix a place, right? Fixing a place helps you in getting away from the distractions. How? I will come to it in a moment. Then you have to make concrete and specific plans, right? So you will say that I have to work on this particular thing. Let's say we are reading a book. I will say that, okay, on this particular day, at this particular time, I will read 10 pages or 20 pages, or I will finish chapter 1. Now, what happens? This is a plan which is very specific. You have something quantified to it. You have something measurable to it, right? So now it becomes easy to achieve. So what you have done before actually getting into your session or into your learning hour or slot, you have already removed a lot of distraction, like which book to choose, where to start with, what chapter to read, whether we should read it or not. All those things are gone. Now your entire focus is available on that particular thing. Right, so that becomes important. So that's where the executing the plan piece comes into picture, wherein you focus on the important things. So you have so many important things, try to prioritize them, pick up only one. If you can't prioritize, randomly pick up one and work on it. Right, maybe after a week or so you will realize it is not so important. Then keep on working like that and keep a scorecard. When I say scorecard, like keep something to track your progress. You should be aware whether you are moving forward or not, whether you are learning something or not. So that's very important. Now, coming to that piece, right? So where I was saying, if you practice every day, so it is coming from some research which says that in a 4-month period, if you practice 30 minutes a day on something, you can expect to learn and retain 3,600 cards. Cards, if you remember, like those memory techniques were there. You whatever you want to learn, you write into some piece of card and keep it with you whenever you have time to take a look at it. So you can learn 3,600 cards, which is with 90 to 95% accuracy, which is really very good, right? So I will say not 3,600. Can you learn even 5 or 10 or maybe 1? Even that is good enough. But important point here is a period for 30 minutes a day consistently for 4 months. Now it can be 1 hour, it can be 2 months, it can be 6 months, anything. But the idea is to be consistent in your effort. And if you choose this thing and you are dedicated to it, you will soon realize that it's learning, right? So it's fun, it's not tedious, it is not because of compulsion you are doing it. So the moment it starts getting interesting and fun, you will crave to learn more, right? So that's where it is important. Now, a few more points here before you pose any question. Something about why we should actually make so much plans, like, or why we should say that, okay, work specifically at this hour every day, or work it at a particular location every day. The reason being, the way we work, the way our brain works, we have a limited amount of willpower, let's say, right? And you have to spend it wisely. Or you will say that I have a limited capacity to take decision in a particular day, right from your up and the moment you go to sleep. Between that time, you have a limited capacity to take decision. Now, if you can limit your decisions, what you can do, you have more energy available to focus on something, right? So basically, when you decide that I will sit here, what happens? So you will sit for 1 day, 2 days, then anything around that place will become immaterial to you. So you will not focus your attention there. You will not start thinking about it. So for example, if say today you go to a park where you have never been, right? You sit on a bench and what you will do, you will start looking here and there, right? You will keep moving here and there, moving as in like your mind will keep moving here and there, and you will start thinking about it. So it's there is a tree, there is this board, what is written on this board, how many people are coming, so on and so forth, right? So those distractions will go away if you go to that park every day. So most likely you will see same set of people, maybe same set of flora, fauna, all those things. So gradually your attention won't go there. Then you can focus on something that you want to learn. So that's why this thing is important. Also, what happens, and this piece actually I'll cover later. So remind me of that. So moving on, I would say develop a learning mindset. So now you know what to learn, why learning is important, how to learn effectively. So basically you saw like if you work deeply or focused attention, if you pay, you can learn better. So that's where you will say, okay, it's important. But most important thing is develop a learning mindset, right? So it's a big hindrance. I will say the hindrance slide is coming later, but this is also like overcoming the hindrance. And it's very tough. Changing your mindset is very tough. It has been ironed out like 100 times, so that those creases in your shirts are not going to go away easily. You have to wash it, rigorously, right, to get it away, to remove it. So I would say that, okay, you can go through these things. It is just like telling yourself, I'm not that smart. If you think that way, then you can say, I will learn how to do this, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to read it. But the idea is just by changing little bit the way you react or the way you think to a little bit more positive, optimistic way, you can change your mindset over the period of time. Now, will it happen in 1 day? Will it happen in 1 week? That I don't know. But definitely, if you are there for 1 year, it will happen. There is no way it cannot happen, right? Because that's how the brain works. If you keep saying the same thing to the brain, those neuron connections are getting stronger and stronger, that the impulse or the signal will pass through that path only instantly. There is less likely chances it will go here and there, right? So what happens? Next is the stages of learning. So when you are learning, you will go through multiple stages, and those are very natural, right? So sometimes you'll feel that the day when you started reading, you will feel like you're master of the subject. You know everything. Next day, when you get into another chapter or another topic, then you will realize that I know nothing, or I'm not able to even grasp this topic. Yesterday it was so simple. Today what happened? How can I be so dumb in a day? So it's a natural process, right? So we can say it's a stage of learning. So initially you won't believe that you can improve a skill or you need any skill improvement. But the moment you say that, okay, I need to improve, I need to learn some new skills, and there are things I don't know. So you are aware. Then you start learning it. Then you start realizing, no, you can do it, right? So the moment you start achieving those small pieces or concepts, you will think and you will get confidence that I can do it. And finally, what will happen? It will become your unconscious learning, right? So it is already there in the back of the mind. If you want to relate this to a very simple thing, it's like learning to drive, right? So go back in time whenever you started learning to drive a car or a bike or a cycle in your childhood. Initially, you were so afraid of, right? Or in fact, when you're seeing people driving, you thought like they have some superpower. And the day you started it, you thought it's very easy because the instructor was sitting next to you. They were able to guide everything, and you hardly have to take any decision. Then the day came when you have to drive alone, right? So that day onwards, you started building confidence. And once you have learned it, now driving is not even an effort for you, unless you are going through a very hectic traffic. It's not an effort. You just do it, right? So it will happen. So don't worry about those stages. Now I'm coming back to this slide. If you remember, initially I gave you 4 statements and I asked you pick up one. So how many people selected one? You can say yes, no, 1, 1, 2, like that. All the ones shout out loud so that I can do a voice vote or noise vote. You have to unmute yourself. So nobody selected one?
I didn't see anybody selecting one, Deepak. I don't remember.
Okay. Anybody selected 2?
Me.
Okay.
1.
Anyone else?
I selected 2.
2. Okay. 3.
I
I
selected.
selected 3 as well.
3.
I also
Okay.
selected
3.
I selected 3, Deepak.
3. Okay. 4.
I have selected 4.
4. One voice. Anyone else?
Me too.
I selected 4.
Okay. Anyone remember that statement? The one you have selected?
You can always sustain change intelligent or how intelligent you are.
You can make a substantial change in your life.
Okay. So I can go back to the statement, but I'm assuming you remember that. So let's discuss a little bit. So do you think people are born intelligent?
No.
Not really.
No, that's
Some
a wrong
of them
statement.
are. Some of them are.
Some of them are, okay.
I think they are.
They are, okay. Anyone else?
No, it's acquired trait.
It's an acquired skill, okay.
The cells in our brains get replaced quite frequently through our lifetime, so we're always capable of learning more.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So do you think Einstein was born intelligent or he acquired those skills over years?
See, when you talk about intelligence, we are referring to IQ, right? See, IQ is something you're. Okay.
No. IQ is different. So we are not associating ourselves to any number, right? Because we are not defined by numbers, right? So if you want to say, Zabi, that IQ of 140, 120, something like that I'm not talking right now.
Okay.
So intelligence is something like your willingness to learn new things, adapt to new situation, or how quickly you can adapt to new situation which you have not seen earlier, or learning something new. So let's say, put it that way.
I would say we're not born enlightened.
We are not all enlightened. Okay.
We achieve an enlightenment through learning.
Yeah, you're taking me to the spiritual domain. I won't go there right now. Maybe some other day. Okay. So do you think Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, J. Krishnamurti, or let's say any one of those brilliant minds that we have seen, they were born intelligent or they did work hard also?
I think it's both, I guess.
They worked hard and with the right attitude. That is the most important, I feel.
Right. So any personality you see, right? So what you see is their success, because you don't know them. Obviously, we can't know all of the celebrities there. So we see their success only. We don't see all the hard work that has gone behind it, right? Now, what they have done, so if somebody was a scientist, somebody was an artist, what they have done, they have spent their entire life in dedicating their effort and skills or honing their skills on that particular profession or domain only, right? So if we see some artist painting very, very good picture, or let's say scientist discovering something new, what we say, like, this is something brilliant. So you feel it that way because you think the flash of brilliance actually occurs sometime in brain, right? Because it happened to you sometime during your childhood or in your college, or discussing some idea with anyone. What you thought, like sometime you get a flash of genius, right? It may happen, but unless you work on that particular idea, unless you iron it out, unless you put in all the detailed efforts and plan it out, execute it, it won't be meaningful. And that's why we see that those people who have done it, they might have got that idea, but they work very, very hard to make it active or make it or bring it to life, I will say. So that's where I say that it largely depends on mindset you have. So try to get away from fixed mindset to growth mindset. And this we have seen, like, it's a sad thing that in our academics, we are actually stereotyping people. We will say somebody who scored more marks in some subject, we will say they are very intelligent. And the other person who scored less marks, we will say that they are dumb. In fact, that's a very strong word, saying dumb to them, but it's not actually true. Maybe that particular student worked hard on that particular subject, or the student didn't get enough time to work on that, or anything like of that sort you can compare. So we can never say that somebody is intelligent or dumb. All I will say is always this person is intelligent because they have the path of learning behind them. So there is a trail of learning efforts and all to the intelligence level that they have achieved today.
Yes, but aren't we mixing the terms here? Because we should divide it to intelligence and knowledge. And intelligence is actually the capacity, what we can learn, how we can learn, and how we solve the problems. And the knowledge is something that's adaptive to our intelligence. So if we learn something, we are extending the knowledge, but actually intelligence might not be the same.
Intelligence might not be the same, but it will improve. So for example, when you gain some skill, right? So now that skill become your muscle memory, right? So it is like your unconscious thing. So that makes you intelligent. For example, you have seen people doing calculations very fast. Like the moment you say some number, they will calculate it, right? So what is happening behind them? So it is not knowledge, definitely. Maybe it is not also, let's say, super intelligence or something. What they have done is they have created a method to calculate two numbers, multiply two numbers very fast. Now, we can get into terminologies details like knowledge, intelligence, or maybe some other terminologies like that. But my idea of stating is, if you put in hard and dedicated effort with a plan, you can achieve various things that seems impossible to you, right?
Deepak, Ramya here. I'll just bring in something that I've been struggling with, right? I'm a parent of a child who's giving his 10th exams this year. So I'm just thinking, if all of us, everybody has the same level of intelligence and they kind of have to work towards it. I mean, all of us are pretty much starting at the same level, right? Why is it that we see that some children are able to learn something much faster? I mean, they just have to spend about an hour and they get everything and they're able to recall it, analyze it, and reproduce it. But at the same time, the same child who's been taught by the same teacher, reading the same book, will take much longer to output the same result, right? So why is that different?
Yeah, so understanding child is the most difficult problem, first thing, right? So what happens, the child is in a learning phase, and if you see the child is actually, I will say, the true human, or the true form of life, I will say, because they are not bound by any kind of stereotypes, or they are not bound by any kind of myths or mirages, or let's say hope or optimism that I have to do this or craving like that. They are doing what they want to do in that particular moment, right? So if the child is not interested in something and somebody is trying to force it to learn, they might not show all those interests, right? So they even though you will see that they are reading, but they're just reading because you're forcing them to read or forcing them to write. So maybe that is one of the reason, right? So other kid, if you pick up, let's say the same child, you throw up some other subject which the particular child is she or he is interested in, they might do much better. That is one way. Second thing is the environment that in which the child is raised, right? So what happens if somebody is raised in a particular, let's say, geography? I'm just giving a different example. Let's say where it rains a lot, right? And somebody who is raised in a particular location where it hardly rains, let's say in desert. Now they have a altogether different view of life. They have not seen both phases yet. They have seen only their world. So their learning is limited to that. Now, say for example, if you bring them both to different locations. So for example, let's say you bring them to a common location which both of them have never seen. It's highly likely that they will react in a similar way. Right, so then it intelligence and all doesn't matter. And I will give you a very good example. It came to my mind. There was a research done, right, on the chess players. So they said there are grandmasters and there are novices, right, in a game of chess. So you lay out the chess board and give some problem to solve. The grandmaster will solve it almost, many times ahead of that particular person, novice. Makes sense, right? What they did differently is they changed the rule. They changed the rule of the chessboard, maybe shuffled something, said that, okay, this will move in this way, this will move in that way, and all those things. The moment they did this for the same problem, both of them were taking same time, right? Why? Because it was something new and both were not aware of these things. So now they were using all their skill to solve the problem. So grandmaster's advantage, which was gained over the long period of mastering certain movement of pieces, vanished. Right, so they started actually performing the same way. So maybe something that we can say about children, but I will say we know a lot less about children yet, right? And any kind of learning or intelligence or whatever we talk about, the philosophy, psychology, anything, we know much less about a child as compared to, let's say, an adult.
There is also one thing that we can mention, that there are different types of intelligence. So not everybody understands the same things the same way. That's why there are differences in learning.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. All right. So I'll move on to next slide, and I will just focus sometime here, like what stops us from learning. Right. So one thing you must have noticed is, and we have just 3 minutes left. So if we may go 1 or 2 minutes over, this is just second last slide. So whenever you're trying to read something, you distracted everything, you went to the room, nobody can come and no sound, nothing, and you start focusing on writing or reading or just playing some music. What happens now? You have a great distractor. What is that? That's your mind. The mind never lets you do that because you have convinced the mind all those things, but the idea of the mind, or let's say the nature of mind is such that it keeps wandering, right? And if you notice this, it wanders in past and future. It never stays in present, right? It's always talking about something that had happened. So maybe some unpleasant situation happened. Somebody said something to you. Now you are contemplating your options. That time you didn't say anything or you responded differently. But now sitting today, you are actually thinking about it and saying, now if that person says to me like this, I will react like this. I will give this kind of answer. I will retort like this, on and so forth, right? And it is again useless, right? Because what you are doing, you are strengthening the wrong neurons, right? Now, second way of looking at mind is like not looking at mind, but second place where mind wanders is future. So the moment you started looking on something, you said, oh, I will learn this skill. Then this will happen, then I will start doing this, then this will happen, then I'll make more money, I'll buy a bigger car, bigger house, go for vacation. So what happened? You started wandering in future, which is not yet there, right? And all that future assumptions you are making is based on the thought that you will learn, and that learning can only happen in present, right? So this is a strange situation, right? So how do you overcome it, right? Again, practice is the only thing that you can do, right? So I take it this way. And this is a proven research that the thoughts that comes to your mind are more negative, right, in nature. So if I have to do some kind of association to percentages, maybe 80-20, 80% of the time you are thinking negative things, or maybe even more for some people. So what you can do, you cannot stop it immediately. Of course not. It's not in your control right now. But what you can do, you can make a conscious effort saying that if negative thought comes in, right, which first you realize that it is negative, I will stop it. I will say cut it down, move on to something else. Think of something good things. Think of something, some pleasant memory. At least you have moved from negative to positive. Still you are in past, but move from negative to positive, which is a welcome change. When you are contemplating some future scenario, right, which is imaginary mostly, if you are thinking negative, again try to move to something positive, which is also not very good, but let's say you have made some effort. So now the moment you bring in this consciousness, what will happen? Your proportion of those positive thoughts will increase and your energy level will increase and you will be more positive or optimist about learning new things or doing anything for that matter. Then you can slowly hone this skill and try to bring your focus to what you're trying to do. It is just one of my experience, and after reading a couple of research and books, I realized that this can be done, and I've been doing this for past couple of years, and it is very effective for me. So if you have to do something in terms of removing all those stuff, I will say drain the shallow tasks, so which are not adding a lot of value to your goal, the immediate goal that you have. Eliminate or reduce them or limit the time that you spend on them. Next best thing is, or important thing is, limit social media. Now I cannot say that you terminate social media accounts and all, or you get away from it. It's not possible for us because the way we are living. So what we can do, we can limit it. Or when you are on your Facebook feed, Twitter feed, choose the handles to follow which actually adds value to you or which makes you happy. Rather than actually going through all sort of nasty trolling and all those things, you can limit that. Maybe you enjoy trolling, reading to trolls, but let's say not more than 5 minutes, not more than 10 minutes. I'll stop it after that. Something of that sort you can do. The social media thing, one point also I will make, it's very distracting in the sense it keeps your thoughts hopping. So the moment you're browsing through the feed, what happens? Somebody posted on some quote or some politics or religion or something else, so on and so forth. What is happening? Your mind is hopping through various things. So it is not stagnant. And the more you go through this, the more you are practicing your mind to hop onto various things and never stop on one, which is actually a great distractor if you want to focus it on learning. Third and last point could be laziness. So you feel that I'm so tired, I have no energy, right? So that is also okay. So what you do your important task or important learning task first thing in the day, right? So that's why we say waking up early in the morning, because not a lot of distractions are there. You are high on energy and you can do better. A lot of people say that we work better at night, right? Maybe after midnight, my active energy is much higher. But what happens after night is also important. You are distracted, you are actually away from a lot of distraction. That's why you are able to focus more, concentrate more, but your energy levels are way too down. So if you are putting in 2 efforts from 12 to 2 at midnight, maybe in the morning or maybe early in the morning, like 5, 7 up to 10, you need to spend only 1 hour, right? So that's how you can actually get away from these things. This is the last slide wherein I will also quote that do not focus only on reading. And this have been my experience from interviewing a couple of people. They said that learning without application is useless. So it is like just reading and getting some intellectual feast, but unless you apply it, it won't become yours. So with this, I will open up to question. We are 3 minutes over. Sorry for that. And thank you for listening. If you have any question, I'm happy to take them.
I have a question.
Deepak, you said that, okay, Deepak, before, sorry, Michael, you
Yeah,
said you would be going
go
back
on.
to one more slide, which you missed it in the.
Yes. So before you move away from this session, I will just request you to take part in a small survey. And in the meanwhile, you'll filling the survey. It will just take like a minute, less than a minute or so, right? Please fill out that survey and keep your questions coming. I'm posting in the meeting chat. Let me see. Yes. Oh, sorry, I didn't see the meeting chat. Sorry. So I'll go through it also. And you can pose your question. Please go on.
Okay, I have a question. What are the next meetings about? So we will be moving forward to machine learning more on technical aspect of it, or it is just a developer?
Sorry, come again. What you're saying? Come again, please.
It's only a theoretical part, or we just move into some programming as well, or some models, anything more into machine learning and artificial intelligence?
No, so this session was not about artificial intelligence. This session was about human intelligence, which is actually real intelligence, right? So machine learning models and all those things, we will cover those things, but it is not related to this particular session, right? So Tech Council and Innovative Studio will conduct a lot of session on different things, and there we will learn all the technical details. This was more about to get you started, how to learn or how to make most out of those sessions.
I see. Thank you.
Sure. Somebody is asking, is there any recording? Yes, recording will be available after the session. Please keep your question coming in. I'm reading through your chats now.
You said you would be going for one more slide, which you skipped in the middle. So you said you.
Okay, which one was that? I forgot. Sorry.
Hi, Deepak. This is Chaya here. So the topic what you have picked is a very interesting topic, path of intelligence. In fact, you know, it is very, what to say, it brings in a lot of thoughts and perspectives. But I would like to just add to what you were saying on the last slide. There are two types of learning. One is active and the passive learning. So it totally depends on what is our motive behind learning, or you know, what is the intention. Because for example, I want to relax, so I would pick up something which is very light, so where I have to be just passive reading, where I do just the passive reading. But somebody was asking, you know, one of the questions where if you want to really learn something, or you want to apply that in your day-to-day work, then you have to do that active learning, where you actually practice, you apply that, and you focus on those methods where you can recreate those. You will analyze, you will evaluate it, and you will also try to do, you know, apply that. So that is the active learning part. So it totally depends on our content and also our intention, motive behind what we are trying to do. Because in a chaotic situation where it is work from environment, and where you have to keep up with a lot of things, and be fast and quick to learn, as in when you are progressing in your career. So we have to be mindful that, you know, what is it we are you know, talking and learning and understanding. So those perspectives is what I wanted to bring in, because active learning and then passive learning. So that will give you a lot of clarity in what is your end goal, what is it you are expecting out of your learning. So that's a small thought behind it, but it's a very interesting topic. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And this topic, if I have to comment on your thought, this topic was more about how to get into active learning, something that you want to learn. Now, if you're reading a book for leisure and all, that is okay. You keep learning. So even if you are talking to me or in a group of people, you are learning something, maybe unconsciously or consciously. Anything you do, you learn, right? And that's how a child grows, right? So that is always there. But we are today focusing on the active learning piece, where you intentionally want to learn or acquire some new skills. Okay, any more questions, or please fill up the form so that we know that you like this session and you want more session of such kinds, or we should focus our efforts somewhere else. Please do that and keep your questions coming. Anybody wants to leave, please feel free. We are already over 8 minutes. I'm happy to take more questions if you have.
Deepak, one more point. Is there a way how we can learn faster without actually forgetting? Because we have to learn quickly, right? And there are a lot of new methodologies, new topics, new subjects coming in. So do you think, is there any kind of hack there, or fast learning, does it help?
One hack I shared, right? Repeating it, right? So if you spend like 15-20 minutes of dedicated thing for a particular thing over the period of time, you can learn it. Now, if you say super fast or something, it will be a little difficult. I would give you one example from nature, because we belong to nature. Anything which is built, which is beautiful, anything which is generated or developed takes time. Only fast thing that happens, only thing that happens very fast is destructions, right? So for example, earthquake can never build anything, right? It destroys so many things, right? In just a couple of seconds, or maybe even less than that. But if you want to build a building, it will take like to build a fine building, it will take a couple of years or maybe a couple of months if it's a very small one. But to destroy it by earthquake, it takes only fraction of seconds or maybe by a bomb or something, right? I always feel that if you want to achieve something meaningful, the process has to be slow and steady. Slow doesn't mean that you don't do it like to best of your speed or something, but it will take time. It cannot be acquired quickly.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought behind there. But I would like to bring your attention and everybody's attention to there is something called Tim Ferriss podcast, which talks about scientifically it is proven that you can, read, you can do this fast reading 300 times faster than your speed. And it's something called chunking, or you do meta learning. So you pick up only those things which are, you look at those highlighted keywords and then you pick up and then you come up with the information and data around it. So maybe if somebody is interested, you can go through the podcast, which is by Tim Ferriss.
Sure.
It is scientifically proven, so maybe you can have a look at it. It's interesting.
Can you please put it in the chat box
sure,
also?
I shall do that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Zabi, Ramya?
No, Deepak, I'm good. I think it was a fantastic session. Really liked it. Very enriching.
With that, thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks for listening. Do reach out to me if you need more information on this, and thanks for filling up the feedback form. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Thank you, Deepak.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Deepak. Bye. Bye all.
Bye.